Good morning, everyone. We are here with head coach Troy Taylor. We will take questions right off the bat. Please use the raise hand function, and we will call on you in the order hands are raised. Troy, you're up first.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Got to start here. Your reaction to Tristan Sinclair, the targeting situation as it was handled in real time and how it's been handled since then.
So, yeah, we put in an appeal, and they officials stated that it was not targeting, that it was incorrect. And so he will be able to play in the first half against Notre Dame. My reaction is, it was a crucial play, obviously, and disappointed they didn't get it right. But, people make mistakes and we move on.
Thank you, Troy. John?
Coach, second sort of referee question, and I don't mean to be whining, and I'm not asking you to comment on the call, but on the Mendoza play that was initially ruled a fumble and then later an incomplete pass. My surprise was how quickly the review happened. Is that a Pac-12 rule? It seemed like it was a 10-second booth review. Can you shed light on that, or?
Yeah, they review everything. And so, they tell you at the beginning of the game that we review everything so that you don't have to utilize, a timeout. So, yeah, on the reception by Sam, I had to call timeout on that one as it looked as though it was a reception to me from the other side of the field. And then I looked quickly up on the scoreboard and luckily, called timeout. And it was a big play. So to answer your question, they're supposed to review everything. That theoretically you're wasting your timeout, I guess, unless somebody's going fast. But just sometimes I think they're wrong. So I'll call it timeout if I need to. So luckily did that with Sam's reception, but they're supposed to look at everything. That's a disappointing thing is when it's reviewed and they take a long time, on a call. You would hope, you would hope they get it right. But like I said, we're all imperfect.
Steve?
Yeah, Troy, excuse me. Sorry to continue on this, but more kind of a general thought on the targeting. From my perspective, whether or not Tristan was targeting, whether the call was correct or not, to me, the penalty for him and for your team is too much, even if it were targeting. For a guy, it's a first time for the team. I know targeting is something that is meant to not only protect the ball carrier, but to protect the defensive player. Yeah. But is there a way to have something more of a sliding scale? If it's a first time offense, maybe it's just the 15 yards, to have 15 yards and to be gone for, in effect, the full game. To me, just doesn't seem appropriate in that situation.
You're right, because in retrospect, it's great that he can play in the first half against Notre Dame, but we can't get him coming back from, right. And we can't get the yardage back in the first down and all that. I think they are adjusting. They've tried to adjust how they do targeting. It's I think most people are very confused, me being one of those, on what is targeting, what is not. So like when I see it, I'm just like, I think some of them are really clear. And then some of them, we're not sure. Sometimes it seems like it's the reaction of the player you hit that does play a role. They would probably tell you that's not the case, but I think using common sense, I think that seems to happen. Listen, I'm all for player safety. So whatever helps, the defensive players rule, I think, is fantastic. I know a lot of people didn't like that. I've always thought that we should, protect people that don't see the hit coming, because you can still wall them off. I think all those rules that make the game safer are great. Just the clarity in some things are, missing with targeting, and I'm not alone in that. It's frustrating, but I do think, generally speaking, they're trying to get it right for player safety. But I think you're right. The player missing out on the whole half, and then you find out later that it was not the incorrect call. It's a pretty big deal.
Harold?
Yeah, with senior day coming up, I'm just wondering, I know you've only spent a year with them, but how would you kind of characterize the senior class?
I love these guys. You know, we don't have a lot of true seniors, So Spencer Jorgensen is one. Is really the only one that's a true senior with the last year of eligibility. He's a walk-on linebacker from Utah that earned a scholarship and has been really important to this program. Really special guy. Appreciate him. With the way the COVID, impact with guys getting extra years and all that, it's kind of it's one of those things where, they may come back, they may not come back. Some of them are ready to move on with their lives. Some of them are feeling a little beaten up and dealing with injuries. So they might move on. So it's kind of I think after this year, there'll be a little bit more clarity getting back to kind of the way it used to be when you knew who was a junior and who was a senior and all those things. But to answer your question, I would say this team, there's not a player on this team that I don't really admire and appreciate. Just everything they've given me personally as a head coach, and then our staff, and then this university. They do everything the right way. You never worry about them making poor decisions, off the field, in the classroom, all those things. They just do everything the right way. So love these guys, and we'll miss the guys that move on, but they'll always be a part of our Stanford family.
Troy?
Didn't realize my hand was up. Certainly I can ask again. 2-point conversions. Kind of take us through your methodology as far as deciding when to go and when not to go, whether it's gut or whether you have a sheet that you adhere to or things like that. Can you kind of take us through that?
Great question. Yeah. So there are cards, and we have a little cheat sheet that tells you what my contention is to not go for 2 when it's early, that there's just so many things that can happen with extra points. And, I also think that we have an incredible kicker. So we can be in a position where an extra point that you don't get could be something that you regret. The one we went for, felt it was the right time to do it. The shoot almost got it. But yeah, it's one of those things. I know now the NFL teams are saying to go for 2, because I think that the theory is if you're down by, 7 or whatnot, that there's a high probability you're going to get one of the 2-point conversions if you have to go for it, if you get to go for it twice. I don't know. I kind of like getting the points on the board unless you start getting, into the late third or fourth quarter. And then it's also at how quickly are you scoring points. If you're scoring a lot of points and you're moving the ball, at will, then probably just keep kicking the extra points. But, if you're struggling to get points, when you get an opportunity to close the game to within 7 or tie it, then it's probably worth it. And then if you have a good play, if you feel like you have a good play versus what you think they're going to do on a 2-point play, we carry usually 5 to 6 2-point plays every week, just because you could possibly get in, an overtime where you're going back and forth, like a penalty kick deal, so you got to have some ones that you feel comfortable with. And sometimes you have to use them, like against Colorado, and then sometimes you don't. So, and sometimes they carry over from week to week. Sometimes they're very specialized. So that's my answer on that.
John?
Coach, the gauntlet of really good quarterbacks continues. Talk about Sam Hartman, how he compares to some of the other excellent ones you faced earlier this season.
Really, really good, mature, makes good decisions. You can tell leader of the team, a very steady player, steady approach, steady personality, all those things you want in a quarterback. These guys are really good. It might be the best defense that we faced all year. Just very well coached, outstanding secondary players, physical up front, downhill linebackers. Very challenging. So we're finishing off with a really, really good opponent. Obviously they've lost a few games against really good opponents, but they're outstanding. I mean, got a chance to watch their game versus USC. That was really impressive what their defense was able to do against an incredibly talented USC offense. So this is a great challenge.
Ben?
Do you feel it helps your guys at all to have a game like Notre Dame to kind of close out the season after a difficult big game loss, just in terms of rivalry, choking the line, that sort of thing? Does that maybe kind of help kind of put a big game loss in the rearview mirror more easily, do you think, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question how they view Notre Dame. Obviously, one of the most historic programs, or maybe the most historic college football program. So that might, tend to motivate somebody more. I think I'd like to hope that most of our guys just realize they only get 12 games and they're all super important. That's kind of how I look at it. But everybody's different.
Kevin?
Coach, can you kind of talk about the offense? You guys had a few missed opportunities last week in the passing attack. How do you kind of change that? Is that just making throws, or is there certain looks that you guys were getting that you weren't expecting maybe?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say, we're struggling to run the ball. And when you struggle to run the ball, it makes everything challenging. So defenses will tend to be a little bit softer in pass coverage and keep everything in front of them. And it limits your opportunities to take shots up top because they're in softer zones. So I'd say most of the challenging things that we faced was just, not getting enough movement up front and making people miss and becoming a one-dimensional team. Now, we were able to get a few of the quarterback runs going, but for the most part, they did a really good job of containing our run game, and that makes it difficult. Doesn't make it impossible, but it makes it difficult. So, are we going to change that in a week? I would like to think we would, but probably not realistic. But we'll continue to try and run the football, and in the future in this program, it'll, like it always has been for me, something that's really important to be a balanced team that can win by running or throwing the ball.
Harold?
I think Stanford's the only team without a home win this season. I know on the flip side of that is you obviously have a winning record on the road. But I know you want to win every game, but would it carry like kind of additional significance, to be able to win this last game and get that home win before the season ends?
Yeah, you want to win them all, but obviously being at home is supposed to give you an advantage. We haven't won a game at home. It's the reality. So we haven't played well enough. Part of that is our opponents. We played some good teams, but part of that is we're not playing well enough to win for whatever reason. So yeah, I think it's in the coming years in this program, and certainly this week we'd like to start out. We're gonna have to be a great team at home and a great team on the road. A lot of those things, there are certain advantages you get to playing at home. Some places more than other, but I think there is a comfort level to being at home. But there's also something to be said for going on the road and having a little edge and a little focus and knowing that you're, in a unique place or a foreign place. But we got to get better in everything we do. That certainly playing better at home is one of those things.
Steve?
I kind of following up on that a little bit, whether you were playing your last game at home or on the road against a Pac-12 team or against Notre Dame, is there a carryover from the last game of the season into the next season? Some coaches will say it's really important, say for spring practice even, to have a winning feeling in the last game. And some people say, look, the season ends in November. We start practicing in, March or April. We don't play another game till September. The last game really doesn't have any carryover effect. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I mean, I want to win, and it is good to have momentum, and especially beating a team like Notre Dame would be fantastic for the program and the momentum and all those things. But that being said, no matter what happens, our expectations, how we work, what we're going to do in the off season, none of those things will change. My hope and belief in this program and where we're going to be has not been diminished at all, whether what happens on Saturday or not. I know we're going to be a fantastic program. We're going to win conference championships. All those things are going to happen regardless of Saturday, but we want to win on Saturday deeply.
Harold?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize my hand was on.
John?
Coach, in looking at the tape from the Wake Forest Notre Dame game and becoming acquainted with Rico Flores Jr. From Folsom High School, just you being a Sacramento guy, what your intel is on him, or if you were familiar with his high school and sort of more broadly the Folsom program, Coach, because I look at these rosters and I know you got Ari and kind of the Folsom name. I know at state championships, it's plural. It's been the last 12 years, but kind of what's going on with that program that is producing so many good players.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very familiar with Rico. Saw him play a lot on tape and saw him play live a couple of times. Outstanding player, really competitive, great adjustment to the ball, competitive when the ball's in the air, physical, tough, all those things. Outstanding player. He could play anywhere in the country. So I have great admiration for him. And then the Folsom program obviously has been something that's been really important in my life. And like I've said before, it's really where I learned how to coach. And so, I watch the program closely, and guys from that program always are ready to play, and they're competitive and all those things. So a lot of admiration, and it's fun to watch the Folsom guys across the country. Jake Browning's, now the starter for Cincinnati for the Bengals. So, I think there was two players on the Cincinnati Bengals teams that were starting on the last game. Jonah Williams, which was an offensive tackle that played for us, and then Jake Browning. So it's kind of fun. You always root for guys that you coached, and that'll always have a special place in my heart.
Troy?
Personnel wise, we saw Simi Pale get the start again, but I don't believe he finished. How's he looking? And is there anything else personnel wise as far as folks that might be able to come back for this finale that might be on the horizon?
Yeah, Simi, he tried to play, did a pretty good job, but I think it was a little bit tentative with his injury. But we think, obviously haven't practiced yet, but we think he's going to be fine. We'll obviously kind of see that as the week goes on, but my anticipation would be he'll be ready to roll.
Ben?
You guys got an interception on Saturday. Almost got a fumble. Almost forced a fumble on the Mendoza. Actually, almost forced two fumbles because on the targeting hit that was wrongfully called. That was nearly a fumble as well, though he was down. So we're looking at one turnover you forced and a couple other near ones as well. It just seems like that area has improved for you guys, forcing turnovers on defense. Just kind of what's gone into the improvement you guys have made on that end.
Well, I think our guys continue to play hard. I think they've improved their tackling as the year has went on. So yeah, I mean we need to create more turnovers, and I think that will come as we become faster and more physical and know the system better and all those things. It's a big part of it. We've done a good job most games of taking care of the football, but we definitely need to create more turnovers. But I do think that will come as our program grows.
Kevin?
Coach, can you kind of talk about how good of a job Marcus Freeman's done at Notre Dame? He's obviously one of the younger coaches in college football, and that's a pretty big job for his first head coaching stint. So could you kind of talk about what he does well and just the overall landscape of his program?
Yeah, I think Marcus has done a great job. He seems to be I don't know him personally, but he seems to be a very consistent person in how he goes about his business. Great reputation, really bright. Defensive mind, does a great job in recruiting. His teams are consistent. So although I don't know him, I certainly admire the job that he does. His defense plays really hard. They're really physical. And so I know that's a reflection of him and Al Golden, the defensive coordinator. So those guys, I respect that team a lot. When you put on the tape, you can see how disciplined they are with their eyes and their assignments on the defensive side of the ball. And how, like I said, how hard they play and how well they tackle. And so a lot of those things are reflections of not only being a good athlete and good football player, but being a good coach. So tons of respect for him and their program.
John?
Yeah, Coach, staying with the Notre Dame defense, I mean, Coach Golden is a name. Coach Freeman has a defensive background. When you look at their defense and you look at a young man Xavier Watts wears number 0 with 7 interceptions. I think they've got 14 overall. I mean, that's daunting. You know, you being a play caller scheme, when you see a player that has that many picks, does that sort of, I mean, obviously it gives you pause, but in terms of kind of your think strategizing about the game,
Yeah,
alter things?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've been, watching it now for, 2 days straight. I think when you talk about getting interceptions, it's going to start with pass rush. So they do a great job of pressuring the quarterback. They add on their linebackers a lot. They play a ton of man coverage. I mean, if you put on the USC game, I mean, they're in man coverage almost every snap against really talented wide receivers, and their coverage is tight. So I think anytime you're getting interceptions, it starts with pass rush. They're really good up front. They play man coverage. So the passing windows are very tight. Typically, no one's wide open. I think they've given up an insane amount of less amount of passing yards than you can. I think 148 yards a game, which is unbelievable. Yeah, really impressive. And yeah, he's a great player. Their corners are really good. Their safeties are good. Their linebackers are 27 and 8, are really physical. They come off the ball up front. They're a vertical rush team, so they're going to knock you back, and they don't miss tackles. So there's really no weakness in the defense. They do an outstanding job.
Steve?
Yeah, Troy, a little bit off the field. What does Thanksgiving Day have in store for the Taylor family and the Stanford football team?
Yeah, so we're going to have Thanksgiving with our football team, where everybody's invited, and people that have families will start off together, and if they have an event they're going to go to, we'll start early so that they can spend the afternoon with their family, and then after that, the game plan, everything will be pretty much set by then. So I will hang out with my family and watch some football like you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you.
Troy?
Yeah, Coach, as of right now, the meeting in South Bend next year is the final time that Stanford and Notre Dame are on the schedule, but I would imagine that there will be advantages to continuing this series beyond that on both sides. Would you like to see Stanford Notre Dame continuing beyond 2024? Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great football program. They do things the right way. I think it's been a really good rivalry, and so I think with the relationship that Notre Dame has, well, I know they're in the ACC, but besides football, I believe they play 4 games against the ACC every year. I believe I could be off on that, but so I think we will continue to play them, periodically. So would I like to play them every year? I think it'd be great, but I understand there's a lot that goes into that.
We'll take 2 more questions. Kevin?
Yeah, Coach, it's obviously the end of the year. Can you kind of talk about your culture in year one and kind of what you're excited about your program and just looking ahead? Because obviously it's year one, so you've had like almost a full calendar year with the program. So talk about your culture and just what you've seen so far in Palo Alto.
Yeah, appreciate the question. Yeah, I feel great about our culture. I think the fight, we talk about sticking together through it all, and our guys have done that. They've worked really hard. Guys have worked through little nicks and bruises that happen when you're playing football and continue to push through those things. They're safe to do so. I think, when you see a team come back from a 29-point deficit at halftime, if you don't have a great culture and a great locker room and strong leadership with your players and all those things, that doesn't happen. So I feel great about our culture. We got to get better. There's no question. And we will, but the culture part of that, the work ethic, what's important to us, our guiding principles, all of those things, I feel great about it.
Ben?
Yeah, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on, I know he's been out, but just kind of thoughts on Cedric Irvin, his season he's had, and the kind of progress and development you've seen from him throughout the season.
Yeah, so Cedric won't play again this week, but love the kid. He's outstanding, physical, talented. It's really important to him. Super competitive. We think he's got a really bright future and we're excited for the years to come with him.
Thank you so much, Coach Taylor.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, we are here with offensive lineman Levi Rogers. We'll take questions the same way we took them for Coach Taylor. Troy?
Yeah, Levi, grand scheme of things, the season, you continue to be the Iron Man. I still don't believe you've missed a snap so far this season, this year. And being, looking around you on the offensive line and seeing three freshmen starting with you on Cal's big game, what did it kind of mean to you to be in the big game, to have a big role in it, and to have a few youngsters along the way with you on Saturday?
Yeah. I mean, obviously not the outcome or result we wanted. But just playing in a game like that definitely means a lot for me. I guess being here for 4 years, you kind of see the impact that this game has, and how important it is, especially to the older people. I think sometimes, like when I was a freshman, I didn't really realize like, oh, it's just like the big game, it has this big name and stuff and like whatever. But I think now being a senior, you kind of realize like how much tradition that game holds. And I hope the freshmen really realized how much that game means to us seniors and stuff. But I do strongly believe that all the freshmen, poured their heart and soul into that game. And definitely throughout the week, I think they realized how much that game meant to us. So,
John?
Levi, the game last year in South Bend was pretty competitive, pretty tight, came down to the last possession really for Notre Dame. Joshua had 3 field goals, I think, but just to describe what was the game like last year, being on the sidelines, being on the field, just the whole bit of it.
yeah. So I was actually concussed that week, so I didn't travel, but watching that game from home and seeing my teammates ball out, that game was really cool, especially with the season that we were having. That was a huge like pick me up game. And yeah, I mean, them like coming back home and celebrating with them when they got back was awesome, and just was really proud of it. But I mean, this game means a lot for us too. So whenever there's a tangible piece of trophy on the line, I mean, you really want to hold that at the end of the game. So,
Ben?
Just kind of general thoughts on Notre Dame, what you've seen from them so far on the tape, particularly their defense, since that's the unit you'll be going up against.
yeah, I mean, they're just a well-oiled machine. Honestly, they all play really well together, and on defense, I mean, they have really good scheme and just well-rounded players. And I think, I mean, in the game of football, it's a team sport, and if you work well with the man next to you, you're going to do well. So we have definitely our hands full this week, but I'm excited for Saturday for sure.
John?
Levi, a broader question for you. Barrett Miller was named Player of the Week, Offensive Lineman of the Week for his performance against Stanford. I know that a lot of your fellow offensive line mates, transferred out this past season. What's that like? What do you, as you think it may be likely you keep in contact with one or more of them, but just sort of your attitude about a player that decides to move on and, looking for opportunities, is there a little bit of hard feeling? I mean, just kind of, what is it for Levi Rogers as far as players in your position group when they move on to other places? admittedly late in their careers?
Yeah. I think I I think last year was a little bit of a different story. And I know Stanford is definitely known for keeping their guys around and not entering the portal, but I know nowadays, I mean, things are different with whatever NIL, whatever you want to call it. So, um, but for me, I think, I mean, I love those guys. They're my teammates for 4 years and stuff, and um, I still have respect for them. I learned a lot from them. Obviously, it's sad when one of your brothers leaves and decides to go on. But I think at that point, you kind of have to realize that it's a decision that they're making for themselves and not really, for the team. So.
Troy?
Levi, I'm glad you brought up the fact that this is a trophy game. The Legends Trophy, it's sitting right there in the middle of the Stanford football office last time I checked. What kind of changes? How does that change the dynamic of the week when there's a trophy at stake on a Saturday?
Yeah. I'm a huge kind of visualization kind of guy. So whenever before games, I always try to visualize myself like doing the right thing and holding whatever at the end of the game. So for me, I always picture myself holding the trophy because that's what I want to manifest and stuff, So, but I think having a tangible piece of evidence is a little different than just having, a record change and whatnot. So I think that adds a little bit more energy to the game for sure.
Ben?
Yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on one of your teammates, Simi Powell, just kind of what you've seen from him as a true freshman coming in and, on Saturday, trying to play through an injury there a little bit and just what you've kind of seen from him and his growth as a true freshman.
Yeah. From prior experience, I will say it is one of the hardest things to play as a true freshman, especially the game of football and as an offensive lineman. There's so much development that you have to take in order to be a great offensive lineman. And the guys that we're playing, I mean, a lot of those guys are 6, maybe 7 years older than he is. So the amount of respect I have for that kid is just unbelievable. He's come in here and worked his tail off and done everything right. And it's unfortunate that he's had a couple injuries that taken him out a couple of games. But yeah, I mean, I have so much respect for that kid.
Troy?
I'm always fascinated by the team dynamic of the offensive line, and probably no other position unit in football better embodies the whole team dynamic of it all. What kind of mentality do you have to play offensive line?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you got to be the toughest guy out there. You're taking hits every single play, and so you take one bad hit, you got to get up and do it again, So that's a huge thing. And then, I mean, the game of football is 4 quarters. It's not like you got just 5 minutes of hitting, it's like 3 hours of straight hitting. And so in order to be a great offensive lineman, I think you got to have a little bit perseverance. You got to be a little crazy because you just got to keep hitting people, So, but I think it's also a very smart position. You got to be smart to play it. It's a game of angles, and there's a lot of technique that goes behind it and scheme what the defense is doing. So I think there's both. You got to be mentally smart and mentally tough and physically, obviously. So,
John?
And Levy, I'll narrow it down to the center position because I believe you played other positions on the line, but just the extra challenge that goes into playing the center position, and particularly this year when there's been some movement on the offensive line. Some guys have been out, some guys have moved positions. Tell us about what that's been like.
Yeah, I mean, I think playing center, it's been good for me to kind of learn the game of football more. I've definitely been able to kind of see how safety rotates and how that changes, like what the D line's going to do. Last year I was playing guard and it's just kind of like, oh, this guy's lined up in a 3 technique, it's different. Like now it's like I'm seeing more of the full picture. And I guess to answer your question about like guys playing next to me and stuff, it's just I think everyone in our room is like highly intelligent and everyone knows what they're doing. So it doesn't really make a difference, I guess mentally, who I'm playing next to. Because everyone kind of fills their spot well. So
Ben?
Yeah, just now that you've kind of had a full season with your offensive line coaches, beyond Ital Maival and Al Netter, just what have you most enjoyed about working with them?
yeah, I love how they're young and how they have played the game of football not too long ago because they kind of know how much it's changed and whatnot. And they're just very personable guys. I mean, I can go in their offices whenever and just have a conversation with them, whether it's about football or not. And I also feel like me and both of our coaches are just very much on the same page about a lot of things, especially about who we're playing and whatnot. And going to the sideline and talking to them during games is great as well. And just being very communicative towards them is good. So.
And we'll wrap up with John.
And my question will be about senior day, Levi. You've seen other senior days. Excuse me. You had a last day playing high school football. All the guys, I'm sure guys do it differently, process it differently, communicate differently. Maybe for some, it's after the game that it hits them. Kind of what's been your experience with senior day? How are you thinking about it?
For me, it's just another game. I feel like I obviously want to continue playing football. So I know it's going to be, I think it hasn't quite hit me yet, but I think by the end of the game, it'll kind of be like, okay, wow, it's a wrap to the season. But yeah, for me, I'm just getting prepared to play another game and go out there and be competitive. So
Thank you so much.
appreciate you guys.
All right, we will wrap up with senior Spencer Jorgensen. We will take questions the same way we've taken them all press conference. Ben?
Hey, Spencer. Just kind of talk about what's it like being a senior, going into senior day, just kind of reflected on your time here at Stanford. I got one more game left to play. Just kind of, if you could talk a little bit about your journey here at Stanford, what's kind of been like and all that.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a dense question. There's a lot there. I've been here for 5 years. Had the privilege to talk with many of you over those 5 years. I would say just first and foremost, one of the greatest decisions I ever made, aside from probably this one. And, my religious mission coming to Stanford has changed my life in every way imaginable. Of course, I got to play here under 2 phenomenal coaching staffs. Speaking this year specifically, hasn't been the result that we wanted, obviously. Us and the community behind Stanford, we know that we have a lot of people that expect a lot out of us. And so to be coming into this last game with, only 3 wins, while disappointing, at the same time, we know what we're about. Our coaching staff is, I believe, one of, if not the best in the country, and Stanford is coming. So you ask what it's like to be, going into my very last game. Of course, I've exhausted my eligibility. I'm the only one, I think, on the team that doesn't get to play any more college football for sure due to eligibility. And that stings mostly because I know what Stanford is going to be in coming years. And it's something that I'm proud to have been able to be a part of here this year and this new program and what it's going to be. But definitely a sad thing to be going into, my last college football game and know that I'll be there supporting my boys next year, and I've already told them that I'll be there at the bowl game and whatever comes after. So definitely a lot of good things to see and a lot of good things to come for Stanford football.
Troy?
Yeah, Spencer, well said. Take me back to Saturday and the big headline, at least one of them anyway, emanating from that game, the Tristan Sinclair situation, the targeting that was called, the appeal, and he will be available to play in the first half this upcoming Saturday. Just take me through, in the immediate aftermath of the targeting call, what the defense went through, how it tried to regroup from that moment, and your reaction to the fact that he's going to be back and playing available for the first half on this Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously a really disappointing call. And, them overturning it, we wish that they would have overturned it immediately. Tristan played for one half and was defensive player of the game, in my opinion. Still leading tackler. He laid all the best hits. So definitely initially all of our reaction was a disappointment to see our defensive leader, guy that just has absolutely played his heart out, for 11 games, to see him removed from the game like that. That hurt all of us, I think, but I think it also gave us an energy, like we got to go out and play for Trist. He doesn't get to be here for this second half. And then just coming into this week, we found out real quick that it was overturned, and just we're all stoked, immediately in the group chats, everybody's just turning up because we know, our guy's back. They freed our boy. So, yeah, I think just knowing that the guy that, we need his leadership, and we're going to be able to win this game on Saturday. And a large part of that is going to be because we have Tristan Sinclair back on the defensive side of the ball. So just all around positive, we're stoked to have him back out of there. And like I said, little disappointment that he had to miss a half of the big game in his 5th year. But at the end of the day, the right call was made, at least in the follow-up. So we're happy to see that.
John?
Spencer, we admire your journey from special teams player to getting on the field as an inside linebacker. And you mentioned the coaches, this current staff. Can you share maybe a technique you've learned or some saying that what your coach, either Coach April or the inside linebacker coach, has given you that's helped you this year to become a better player?
Specifically, you mentioned sayings. Our inside linebacker coach, Mark D'Onofrio, he speaks in sayings, and he helps us remember the coaching points and things like that. That's his style. And I'm thoroughly convinced that he's the best inside linebacker coach in the country. And I think that, sorry, there's a lot of things going through my mind right now, but
you're doing good.
He has put into our mind smart, tough finishers. That is how we play. And he emphasizes it every single day. It is the philosophy and the identity of his room. And I guess the saying that stands out most to me is, what you say is your philosophy. What you put on tape is your identity. Mm-hmm. And so, this program is about accountability. It's about performance on the field, and everything that we do so that we can win football games. And it doesn't matter what we say. It only matters what we do, because at the end of the day, our tape is our resume. And so, that's all I can really say about that, I guess. There's a lot more, but.
Ben?
Yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on two of the defensive coordinators you both played under, Lance Anderson and also Bobby April. Just what has it been like playing under both of them, and how are they similar? How are they different? Yeah.
I have immense respect for both of them. both two of the most brilliant football minds that I've had the privilege to work under. I admire the energy that they both bring to their coaching jobs, to their defenses. And I think that going back to what we talked about before, what people say is their philosophy, what they put on tape is their identity, and the tape for both of those men is impressive. And I mean, obviously we haven't performed over the last 5 years in the way that we would like. I think too often it's tempting for people to look at what's put on tape and put that all on the defensive coordinator. But if you pulled up tape from some of the more disappointing games, I could go through each play with you and show you where it's the players not being where we ought to be, that's resulting in those big plays. And so I very much hesitate to say, like these big plays are on the defensive coordinator, because they teach us the scheme. They know what they're about. They're the most brilliant football minds that there is. And sometimes we just let them down. You know what I mean? So I won't go too much into comparison between the two, because I just have so much immense love for both of them, immense respect, and it's been a privilege to play under both of them.
Troy?
Yeah, Spencer, when the new coaching staff is coming on board and trying to imprint its stamp on the program, so much of whether it's successful or not depends on the buy-in of the senior class, the buy-in of the leaders, the buy-in of the veteran players. What made you buy in? Was there a moment where it clicked with you and you said, okay, all right, this coaching staff is gonna be all right? What was your buy-in moment?
Postseason last year, I was on a little vacation with my family. We went up to a family cabin. I had very bad cell service, but I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, and I answered it, and it was our defensive coordinator, Bobby April, and I had a chance to speak with him for a few minutes, and I was immensely impressed with his energy, super excited to play for him. And then just a few minutes later, I got a call from Coach D'Onofrio, and again, just so excited to play for these men who love football, more than anybody I've ever met, and really care about relationships with their players. And I could feel that, immediately in late December, and I knew what was coming. And I think at that moment, it was like, I want to play for this group. I want to be a part of what's coming. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, like Stanford football it's on the come up.
John?
Spencer, I'm not sure impressed is the right word, but you've been on, excuse me, on teams that have had a lot of injuries. 2019, the end of the year, I remember 30 guys down or something. In 2021, kind of the same thing. And yet I look at you and, 11 games or maybe 10 games in 2019 and 11 in 2021 and 12 last year. And I think you played in them all this year. Is that just good fortune? Is there something about how you take care of yourself? Just on having been on squads that have a lot of guys have been nicked up, you have managed to skate through. What do you attribute that?
I definitely in certain seasons it's been lack of exposure. If you don't run out on the battlefield near as often as some of your
special teams aren't easy though.
Certainly. I think there's definitely an element of luck to it. I've had teammates that have just gone down because somebody's leg went the wrong way and took out their knee, and that's a really heartbreaking thing. I've been through some of those injuries most of the time near the end of the season, so it didn't cause me to miss too many games. But 2020, for instance, I just think it was said the other day in one of our rooms, very few people retire from football. You're either cut or you get hurt, and availability is the best ability. So you just play as long as you can play. And I have teammates. Everybody's playing through something. You get to this level and everybody's playing through something. So some are fortunate enough to have those nicks and dings that you're able to play through, and others are not.
Troy?
As far as the game this weekend, your initial thoughts on Notre Dame offensively and some things they might try to throw at you this week?
Yeah, good team. There's no doubt about it. But we've seen that movie before. You know, we've played good teams and we've played tough against good teams. So kind of going back to what I talked about before, playing good defense is it's about doing a lot of little things well. And I'm confident, you know, when we've played and everybody just does their job, we're able to shut down some pretty powerful offenses. You see what's happened against Arizona, Washington, you know, teams that we played real close. Now, we're not big on moral victories in this program. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we still didn't get it done. But we know our margin for victory is one that's going to require us to play at our best level. But we're confident we can do that. And we have the players and the staff to get it done. So, you know, we go into every game believing that it's going to go our way and always believing that something good will happen.
One more thing, if I can sneak it in here. What would a win this week mean to you personally?
To me personally, you know, winning at home for your last game with my teammates, you know, that would mean everything. But, you know, every game I kind of approach win or lose, like you win the game Monday through Friday, you know, not on Saturday. And so I'm just trying to approach this week the same way that I've approached every week, you know, invest as much time, energy into preparation. And when we go out there on Saturday, we're just going to do our job, you know, do our job and let the plays come to us. And the day chips will fall where they may, but I'm confident we can get it done. So if we're able to get that win, when we're able to get that win, that will mean a lot. You'll see me out there smiling, taking pictures with my family for sure.
We'll take 2 more questions. Ben?
Yeah, just kind of general football question. What have you most enjoyed about playing the linebacker position?
The linebacker position is really physical. And you just have the opportunity to bang heads all day, every day. And I've loved that. Moving down into the box, I moved down into the box my sophomore year. And it's the most intense combination of intellectual and physical work that I've ever encountered in my life. And I enjoy that challenge. You know, I enjoy playing for a coach who believes that the inside linebackers can change the game and who pushes us to be the very best that we can be, stresses fundamentals, you know, technique and effort. And the challenge of playing inside linebacker is one that I look forward to every single day when I wake up. It is hard. That's what I like about it.
We'll wrap up with John.
Spencer, I've really appreciated the thoughtfulness of your answers. This has been superb, and I've been doing this 30-something years, and a lot of Stanford athletes are thoughtful, but this has been plus. You don't need to react to that.
Really appreciate that.
My question has to, when I think of you, I think of the block punt against UCLA and Bryson recovering it in the end zone, and that was one of the more inspiring plays that year, and you two were inspiring to me. And this is maybe a bit of an unfair question because it may require you to limit, but who among your teammates across the 5 years has inspired you? You mentioned Tristan. He inspired a lot of us with the 10 tackles in half a football game and just the passion with which he played. But, you know, are there 2 or 3 guys that it doesn't have to be performance on the field, but the way they practice or the way they talk to you or how they've handled adversity? Can you maybe call out a couple guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I can. I think every walk-on that I've had the opportunity to play with, for sure. You know, coming from that place myself, you can't help but respect and love those guys that come out to play because they love to play and for nothing else. And of course, I have a lot of scholarship players that I've played with that come out with the same attitude of they play football because they love to play. But there's something special about paying your way through school and playing ball on the side. You know, taking a 60-hour-a-week job on the side because you love it, you know? So definitely, you know, Bryson Tremaine, one of those guys that I just always loved working next to. And he really inspired me coming in as a freshman. He had been put on scholarship the year before. And so certainly him, like I talked about before, Tristan and I have been very close friends for 5 years now, and he inspires me with the passion that he approaches, the gratitude that he approaches every day. He loves playing football, and he's grateful for the opportunity that is. Guys like Jason Call, you know, who I got to play next to and room with. I'm just really grateful for friendships like that throughout my football career. You know, at the end of the day, a lot of lifetime relationships have come out of this game, and I'm really grateful for that. And I might have to cut it off right there before I start getting too emotional, but definitely countless names that I could put out right now. I hate to leave anyone unmentioned, but
That's why your 5 years have been great.
it's been a special experience. Very, very grateful. Could not be more grateful for both staffs, and this staff particularly for bringing me back for one more ride. Very grateful for that.
Well, perfectly done. We are going to end today's press conference. Thank you all so